We're now going to go over some combined examples of everything we've learned through exam questions. Don't worry if you don't understand the answers, I'm going to go through them line by line. A school uses an array to call an attendance register every morning. Write an algorithm using iteration to display the name of each student one at a time from student names, take as input whether that student is present or absent, display the total number of students and number of absent students in a suitable message after all the student numbers have been displayed. From these 3 bullet points, we can see the following. We're going to have to iterate through an array because it says to display the name of each student one at a time from an array. As well as this, it says write an algorithm using iteration. So that means we know we're going to have to use a for or while loop. Then it says take as input. So we're going to have to take the user's input by using the input function. We're also going to have to display the total number of present and absent students. So we're going to have to make some empty variables at the start. And this is how we do it. We first set the present and absent count to 0. We then do a for loop that's going to go through every single student one by one and do something to each of the students. So first we print out the student's name. Then we take an input of is the student present? If the user enters Y, we're going to add 1 to present count. If the user enters N, we're going to add 1 to absent count. Then at the end, we just print total present students and total absent students. So we're just looping through the array, printing the student's name, checking if they're present, and if they're present, we add 1 to present count. If they're absent, we add 1 to absent count. If you want your code to be extra clean, we can also add toStrip.lower, which gets rid of lead spaces and sets it to lowercase in case the person uses a capital Y or N. And instead of saying present count equals present count and absent count equals absent count, we can just say plus equals 1, which means add 1 to present count and add 1 to absent count. This question is about a vending machine. The vending machine can be in one of 3 states: on, off, or suspended. A user can change the state of the vending machine by using the following algorithm. Rewrite the algorithm to perform the same actions using if statements in place of the switch statement. First, we have to understand what a switch statement is. A switch statement is very similar to an if-else statement. We take in the state as new state. So let's say the new state is suspended. It's going to go through each of these cases and see if the case is equal to suspended and run that code. Obviously, the case on and case off methods will be skipped because new state holds suspended. When it finally gets the case suspended, it sets the state value to 3. If our new state wasn't equal to on, off, or suspended, it goes to the default statement. So we would just write the code as follows. If new state equals on, state value equals 1. Elif new state equals off, state value equals 2. Elif new state equals suspended, state value equals 3, else print invalid state. The next question is about a game that's played on a grid. OCR Blocks is a game played on a 5x5 grid. Players take it in turns to place blocks on the board. The board is stored as a 2-dimensional array with the identifier GameGrid. The function checkBlock checks whether a square on the board has been filled. When checkBlock42 is called, the value A is returned, and the function's down here below. So just reading this question, we see that we're working with a 2D array and a function that takes in 2 arguments. And these 2 arguments correspond to the position on the board. So 42 matches us up with A. The question reads as follows. Write an algorithm to allow player A to select a position for their next block on the board. The algorithm must ask the player for the position of their block on the board, use the checkBlock function to check if a position is free, and if the position is free, add the letter A to the position chosen in the GameGrid array. If the position is not free, repeat the steps above until a position is chosen. So from the first bullet point, we can see that we're going to have to take a user input. Then we can see that we're using the checkBlock function to check if that position is free. As mentioned before, the checkBlock function takes in 2 inputs, the row and the column of the grid. So we're going to have to ask for 2 inputs in this question, a row and a column. These last 2 bullet points use the word if, so we know that we're going to have to use an if statement. As seen in the function given to us, we can see that if the location is free, it returns free in capital letters. And finally, the part that says repeat the above steps means that we're going to have to use a loop of some sort. And here's the answer. We set loop to true, so this loop will keep going until we break it. We say while loop, row int input, enter row, column int input, enter column. So these are just asking the user to input a row and a column and turning them into integers. Then we say if checkBlock row column equals free. This is taking in our user inputs and putting them into the checkBlock function. As mentioned before, if the grid position is free, the check block function returns free in full caps. So we check to see if it returns free. If it is free, we set those exact positions to A in our 2D array, and then we break the loop by saying loop equals false. This way, if it doesn't return free, we never break the loop and we keep asking the user for row and columns until they find a free position. So as a quick recap, we're doing a loop. We take in the row and column from the user, we put the row and column into a function, see if it returns free. If it does return free, we set that position in our 2D array to A and break the loop. If not, it keeps looping around and around. A final question. If we had an array called myArray that stored 4 numbers, how would we loop through the array and multiply each value by 2? And here's the answer. It's only 3 lines. We say for I in range length of my array, so it only iterates for the number of elements in the array. My array I equals my array I times 2. So it starts from the 0th element and goes all the way to the end of the array, multiplying each number by 2. And then we print the array to get 2, 6, 10, 12.